Hey everybody, this is Asher back with more Kerbal Space Program and the Kerbin 3 Ultimate Challenge, where in today's video we are focusing on flying from the moon to Minmus, a transfer that is very important and teaches us a lot about interplanetary transfers. But we do want to take this next vessel to the other place, which is Minmus. If we can just go ahead and get on board here. Let's board. Let's look at his in-flight view one more time. There we go. See, look, this is the wonderful view he has of the moon. Now, like I said, I'm doing this in one straight-up recording. It's possible I may have to make a cut here just for time, because I know some of you all want to watch things all at once, and some of you all want to watch things kind of in spurts. So what we're going to do next is just pick up right where we left off, in case I have to stop here. And let's see here. We want to burn at an equatorial plane as best we can, a 90-degree burn off of here. And we can always fix it if it's not perfect. So where's 90 degrees on the nav ball? Unfortunately, it's a little hard to see, but it's down here. So let's just go ahead and, how's our fuel doing? We should be excellent on fuel. Let's go ahead and fire this up. Let's go ahead and get it 90 degrees. We can adjust our heading later. I do actually want to have a 90-degree orbit. Let's go ahead and put up our landing legs, although it doesn't really matter in space. What kind of apoapsis are we looking at here? Probably about, well, I could do 20 or 30,000, but eventually, just for time warp sake, we're going to want to be a little higher. So I love the moon landscape. I love it. It's very different than Kerbin. It feels very alien, as I guess it should here. So let's go ahead and get ourselves into an orbit first. I think, what, 20,000, 30,000 is going to be pretty good. 30,000 lets us time accelerate a little faster. Let's go ahead and do that. Add maneuver. And yeah, that'll do just fine. Alright, so about 300 delta V. Let's go back to the fuel gauge here. We're still doing good on fuel. And we can just control this a little bit more. 21-second burn. So a little bit more substantial, but we should be able to get into orbit without too much issue. As long as we don't miss our burn here. Which is entirely possible. It's the kind of thing I would do. Alright, so 1. And there we go. Let's go ahead and slow this down. Once again, we're just trying to take it as easy as we can. We have 5 LV-909s. Once again, this ship is probably highly overtuned, but there we go. This fuel tank is still okay. That fuel tank is still okay. We're going to burn at about the 10-second mark just so we can do evenly here. There's our flag. Just touched down on the moon like it was nothing. And there's our other Midlands flag. Midlands, the most convenient biome to get to. There's all kinds of biomes. You can check the wiki. You can do other means to reveal the biomes in the game if you'd rather do that. But for now, we have one fuel tank that's not connected to anything. And it may be what we need to get to Minmus. It may not be what we need to get to Minmus. Let's go ahead and burn. So we don't have to have a perfect orbit or anything, because we're just going to be stretching this orbit out quite a bit. We're not going to be making much use of the O-berth effect, trying to do a burn from the periapse as hard as possible, although that is something we can do. But next thing we're going to talk about here is one of the things that I promised before we actually went to Minmus, or before we went to the moon, which is talking about orbital transfers. So let's zoom out a little bit. Because right now, there are 3 bodies in this area here. Don't mind the planar or the equatorial orbit that company wants me to do. I want to fly to Minmus. Now, I can't just exit burn and fly to Minmus. There's a few reasons for that. And it's not because it's on a different plane. Technically, if you want to make it really easy, you can try and wait a really long time just to wait until Minmus is perfectly here. But just like getting to the moon, when you're flying from your orbit, or from moon to Minmus, you still want to try and fly out at the most aggressive, most optimal angle to save your fuel and to match your apoapsis with Minmus, which is about 46 million meters. So how do we do that? The thing is that if you look at different resources for the game, they'll tell you that much like you have a about 45-degree angle between where the moon should be and when you should burn from Kerbin, there's a specific angle that's really good for Minmus. Unfortunately, it's a very easy one to figure out. If you have a mod like Protractor or something, it'll show you the orbital angles for everything, but we're going to be eyeballing it today because that's fun. Especially because it's a 90-degree angle between where the moon shall be and where Minmus shall be, and that's where we want to do our transfer burn. What that means is that we are going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait quite a bit of time. So let's go ahead and zoom back down to our ship. because I think we're going to need to stretch out our orbit a little bit more just to make this weighing game happen, because we can't do more than 100 times from here. And fortunately, the moon moves substantially faster than Minmus, so I think we can do even better than this, but I may have to zoom out just a little bit more. Alright, so can't go more than 1,000 while we're beyond there. So let's go ahead and just slow down here real quick. We'll do one burn. This is strictly to make it a little bit easier to time accelerate. That's it. That's the only reason we're doing this burn. It's actually, if you want to sit and wait a little bit at time, it's way more efficient to just wait it out. So I am impatient. And I mean, I could do, by the power of video editing, make that work. But see here, because the moon is in a lower orbit than Kerbin, it's moving faster around Kerbin relative to where Minmus's position is. So just like we were talking about meeting things in orbit before, if you want to have something, if you want the moon to catch up with Minmus, you just gotta wait, and it's gonna catch up with where Minmus is eventually, just because of its relative orbital velocity. It is doing more rotations over time than Minmus is. So we're just going to accelerate just a little bit here, and I think we're going to keep getting knocked off the time block here. All right. So let's see here. Let's just go ahead and we're just going to make this a big old orbit. So pardon just the little bit of interruption. Like I said, I just want to do this in one full thing all at once, just so it's clear, consistent, and everything's fresh in my mind. So like I said, orbiting from so high up around the moon is not really efficient very much, but it's going to work okay. And we're pretty much at a 90-degree orbit enough. It doesn't matter too much here. So let's go ahead and zoom out again. We're actually getting there already, so that's good. But we want to be focusing on Kerbin when we find out here. And all we want is the moon at the 3 o'clock angle, or 90 degrees relative to Minmus. And we'll see why that is in just a little bit. Watch the nav ball freaking out. Okay, so there we go. A little bit higher up. Got to kind of slow this down a little bit because things are still going pretty fast here. Let's zoom in just a little bit. Alright, so if we look at where we are right now, I think we're still just a hair short. So if we just let these adjust just a little bit, 90 degrees, we are just about there. As I said, there are mods that will tell you the exact angle, but we're not playing with mods right now, so we're just going to hit the button once, twice, 3 times. Where are we compared to here? Alright. We just want to inch this up a little bit. We want the moon to be kind of right about there. And remember, Minmus is moving too. And we don't have, and once again, we don't have to have perfect, we just have to have good enough. So, next part to understand with orbital transfers, part 2, is that if you want to burn towards something that is inside your orbit, the most efficient place is to start your burn right here. That ends up making you burn retrograde to the orbit or to the rotation of the body. In other words, you're using the rotation of the body to your advantage to help decelerate you to go back inside. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but if you want to go in towards something, like if you're flying towards Eve or Moho, you fly from this angle. We want to fly to somewhere that's further out from our orbit, like Minmus or like Duna or Jool. So if we're looking at the moon, which is traveling this way, so this is retrograde for the moon, this is prograde for the moon, much like you have your own markers for the maneuver nodes. The most efficient place to start your burn is roughly around this angle, and it varies very slightly depending on a bunch of factors that aren't worth getting into right now. But all we're going to do is burn here, and this is going to allow us, as you can see, once we do our exit angle, it's actually going to be pretty similar to different theories before. Like we want to fly out from Kerbin around down here and kind of shoot out that way. That's exactly what's going to happen here, and you can see we're already way overshooting where we're trying to go here. So it's actually we actually are really damn powerful right now. So let's see. And this is going to take a little bit of work with maneuver nodes. Like I said, we may want to actually try and put this angle just a little bit further over, because the goal is twofold. First off, we want to put our apoapsis out far away enough to where we're matching Minmus. So we're pretty close to there. In fact, if I do this a little bit more prograde, we may actually be on an exit trajectory, which we don't want. Okay, so if we bring this in just a little bit, and you'll see there's a reason I'm doing this from the top-down view. Okay, if we actually go retrograde, we're actually bringing ourselves out a little bit more. So this is perfect. We want to burn just a little bit more to bring ourselves in just a little bit, about 45, 46. Normally when you do angles like this, you'll get little markers that say, hey, this is what the encounter is going to look like. But you can see, because of where we are for timing here, we're not terribly close to where Minmus is, so we're not doing good enough to get an encounter. So that's where you have these ascending and descending nodes, which are very important for the mid transfer. You can actually do maneuver nodes on top of your maneuver nodes. And remember these little triangles before, the normal and anti-normal? If we want to burn down just a little bit, you can see we're going to get a lot closer to a Minmus encounter. Not a perfect Minmus encounter, but closer to a Minmus encounter. You'll see we're right here, and the target at position at closest approach is over here. Oh no, we didn't make it. This is where mid-course adjustments are paramount. You don't have to be perfect, but if you adjust your nodes, you play with them just a little bit, we should be able to just get an encounter just by trying to bring this up and bringing it back over here. One way or the other, not that way. Okay. Alright, so this is the direction we want to go. So a little bit normal. And you can see what this does to the orbit right here. It actually brings it up, so we need to bring it down to the anti-normal a little more. You'll see the target position slowly but surely get closer and closer. And for those of you who are a little inexperienced with this, and sometimes this does take a lot of finagling, you just want to walk it over. You're going to see Minmus is going to be kind of in the same place. We're actually not adding too much to our burn. We're just changing the direction of the burn, but we're pretty close to a Minmus encounter just from the mid-orbit correction that we did. Very important. And there we go. We have a Minmus periapsis. In fact, we're flying in so far under Minmus that we can probably move this up just a little bit to get a closer encounter. So there we go, like this, and yeah, you can tell from the orbits here just a few slight adjustments make a world of difference. And in fact, we're probably going to have to make some of our own adjustments anyway. Note that we're actually going to be going in retrograde to Minmus. That's okay. There's nothing really wrong with that. But see, we have two maneuver nodes that we need to use now. And one burn is going to be on the descending node to try and go down here because that's the most efficient place to do it. And one's going to be just to exit. So let's go ahead and get our exit burn. Not bad at all. But still a very important thing to know here, because when we fly to Duna, as you'll see, we may lose our encounter as we get closer to Duna, or if we leave the solar system. And you can get it back just by doing mid-course corrections. You may have a really terrible one here, and especially for a place like Duna or Eve where you want to do an aero capture, which I've not done with the new physics, or with the new atmosphere physics, so we'll see if that's actually dangerous or not. Alright, we'll just go ahead and zoom in here. This is going to be a little bit of a flight, but that's okay. Just take our time. We have everything in the position we want it to be. This is going to work out reasonably well. With the mid-course correction, it's not going to be perfect, but one of the issues with flying to Minmus is that to get where you want to go from Minmus, even at the 45-degree ejection angle or the angle relative to each other, you run into the problem of Minmus being so close to the escape threshold for Kerbin. So it's very easy to fly out. That's why I prefer to do a mid-course correction here. Alright, so we're going to burn on the mark as best we can. We're going to try and make this as close as we can. So we don't... Oh, I failed. Oh well. We should still be okay. All we want to do is stay on the marker. And we want to watch now as our Kerbin periaps is going to go 8, 47. We want about 46, right around 46.0. And let's even do 45 a little bit. Alright, good enough. And you see here that we don't exactly have the orbit that we were going to have before. So if we delete this maneuver node, you're going to see that we still may not have an encounter with a Minmus. Well, we might. But the first thing we need to do, we have a different descending node. So let's move... Well, let's not do that. That actually just screwed things up tremendously. All this time, and actually right here, we still actually have a pretty good Minmus periapsis. even with this. So let's go ahead and just drag the node. We want to make sure that we can snap it to the actual marker here. And look, with our mid-course correction, we're actually a little bit closer to Minmus than we were before. See over here, if we move it up here, not too great. If we move it over here, we actually get a pretty good encounter. 300,000 meters is really good. And you can see here as well, this is exactly what you want to do. You're gonna, with the mid-course correction, we're meeting Minmus on the opposite end of where the planet is. Did we have to cheat a little bit to do it? Yeah, a little bit, but I don't really exactly consider mid-course corrections cheating so much as just strategic flying. So let's go ahead and put ourselves on the maneuver marker here. And it's only going to be about 100 more meters per second, so we're going to have a lot of fuel left, to be honest here. All right. So we got 2 days. This has been a 4-day trip. The node's in 2 days. The actual encounter with Minmus is going to be 14 days. So I'll have to check the Space Center a little bit. I'm pretty sure we're not missing our Duna window, though. So we'll have to definitely keep it in mind. But we're exiting the sphere of influence of the moon. So goodbye, moon. Where'd you go? There you go. You're going to see we snap back to looking at Kerbin, or we actually decelerate time-wise. We're already kind of looking at Kerbin. So there's Kerbin, there's the moon. Minmus is kind of far away. You can see it a little bit as a speck here. And let's make sure we still have our encounter. We do. In fact, I can probably adjust this so we can be landing prograde on Minmus, which is preferable, although not mandatory. So Minmus is all the way over here. Let's go ahead and change our focus. All right. We can do it. We have a maneuver node. That's only a 6-second burn in 3 hours. 6 days flight time. Jebediah has plenty of snacks available. We're looking good to go for the Ultimate Kerbin 3 challenge, which is what we're doing in this video or slash videos, because I'm not sure if this will need a cut or not. So it's here 22, 21, 19, 18, 17 minutes, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. You may notice that I'm actually being a little more careful to burn close to the node. On the mid-course corrections, that's just a standard practice for me because I try and be a little more careful because these are very nuanced adjustments that need to be made here. So here we go. Let's watch our apoapsis. Let's see where we get an encounter. There's our encounter. So now that we're burning on this node, I actually like to delete this just to get rid of the garbage here. So 8, 7, 7. We have an encounter regardless. So may actually be able to get a collision course here because right now, from the looks of it, we're flying in front of Minmus. So how are we doing on fuel? Pretty good. I think 100,000. Yeah, we're going back up here, so we're pretty reasonable. And how long until we hit the periapsis? 12 days. So see, we accelerated just a little bit, and there we go. Our little ship that could still can, and we should be able to have enough fuel to actually where these landing legs may be just slightly more important. Although, like I said, we can land on the LV-909. That's not a big deal. So let's see. That could be one design flaw. I should have put on more things. So just flying around over here, there is Minmus tracking us reasonably well. We're flying a little bit below it right now, though. But once again, we're going to do our course adjustments in just a moment. We do have a good, solid encounter with it, though. So, hello, Minmus, my old friend. It's good to see you again. And where are we flying from Minmus? We have an encounter, and that encounter actually puts us under. So that's interesting. All right, well, let's go ahead and do, same as we did before, let's go ahead and do our course adjustments here. If we adjust on the normal, that gives us a slightly neater encounter. We can bring ourselves in just a little bit as well, maybe. Like I said, we're at kind of a funky angle right now. So there's not too much that we can really do unless I want to go in on a polar orbit. It doesn't matter too much what kind of angle we're getting in with Minmus. I can always do this correction later. Right now, you see, I'm actually bringing my periapsis out really far. So it might be, you know what, it's preferable. Let's just go ahead and fix it in a minute, because we can still land on Minmus just fine. Let's just go for the retrograde burn here. Okay, we don't want to do 23 days from now. Ooh, that's exciting. Periapsis. There we go. 1 day. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We want to land on the daylight side, which fortunately we have a lot of daylight. We actually may be landing on the sort of horizon here from the sun, so that's great. All right. Very, very small. There's our retrograde marker right there. Very, very small burn once again. So that's awesome. I guess the question is, do I want to hold on to this landing stage just so I can have some better legs? It's a lot of weight to take on. But 17 days. I forgot to check when the exact time was for the game encounter, but I'm pretty sure we're not missing Duna right here. I can check that in just a second, actually. Let's go ahead and get into orbit first. Alright, so here we go. 24-second retrograde burn anytime now. So we're suddenly getting very close to Minmus, and I can actually look out the window and see Minmus. Maybe. Maybe. That's not Minmus. Why do I always have so much trouble finding? There it is! Can you see Minmus? No, you don't need to see Minmus. Alright. So 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And with Minmus, it doesn't matter nearly as much if we're exact here because we don't have a very big burn to make. I think 600,000 is okay. I think this may be even better because it gets us, instead of 5 hours, 4 hours. A little paranoid about the time frame here. If we zoom out real quick into the solar system, we can do the same phase angle shenanigans for where Duna is right now. And we're close. We are close. Duna's going to want to be about right here for our transfer. So we're not there yet. That's good. All right. So we'll get there eventually. For now, though, let's work on landing. Exact same thing as we did before. Only Minmus style now. We're just going to be dropping into here. I don't know if we're going to make it onto one of the flats or something else. I guess I could go for a polar landing, but I did already get stuff from the poles here. But look at how much less energy it actually takes to do this. So let's go ahead and just time accelerate. Our node's actually on the exact other side. But our orbital speed is just super, super low. Because once again, the forces of gravity are saving us and making us have to burn less fuel and do less work. This rocket was too efficient for its own good, even though it looked like a monstrosity that could have set itself on fire if I had gone full on the gas going out of the atmosphere. And even though I had to gravity turn way too late, still it looks like things are pretty decent. So alright, let's go ahead and just retrograde here. Maneuver node's just more of a guide. And I could try and land on one of the flats. If I'm doing a single adjust the engine landing, it's very advisable that I land on just the flats. But we're not, so let's not. There we go. And we have how long until we we land? About 2 hours. I could try and warp to an area, but I'm not a huge fan of that. So once again, we do have plenty of fuel here. I kind of wish that I had landing legs down here instead. But that's what happens when we're so eager to build instead of test and iterate, right? I may actually have enough fuel to do the landing with just the fuel that I have, which would be pretty funny. Which means I'm going to have to actually ditch a stage ahead of time here. So let's go ahead and go back to retrograde. I just want to make sure that we have that. So I'm turning, of course, the exact wrong way to go to retrograde. That's okay. Whee! Solar panels at work. I did say in a prior video, right, that the solar panels have kind of been nerfed. We're close to Kerbin enough to where they're still effective, but if I fly out to like Jool, solar panels are only going to be about like real life, maybe less than, where they have like 1/8 to 1/10 of the power they did before. So let's see here. If we get closer to the ground, right now we are landing on the bottom of the planet, but we are landing on the sunny side. So I think that's worthwhile. When I say planet, I mean moon. That's no moon! Yes, it is. It's Minmus. We know Minmus. We've landed on Minmus plenty of times. Alright. You know what? The pole's actually pretty flat, so we should be decent here. And because of the inclination angle, this whole pole is currently sunny. So that's fun. All right. Let's not time accelerate and go to cockpit mode, though. How are we doing on altitude? We're doing pretty good. Altitude 20,000, 19, 18. We don't have too much speed to shed, but we have enough to where I need to start considering my burn. But we're not falling very quickly. Once again, let's go off of orbital speed. Let's go to surface speed. Notice our surface marker is a little bit different. So we get to about, what? We're still pretty high. And actually, there's a flag from stuff that I've done here before. Are we seriously on the top of the planet? I thought we were on the bottom of it. Oh, well. All right. Maybe that flag is somewhere terribly different. But I think we're in pretty good shape to make a pretty flat landing. So let's just go ahead and slow down. I mean, worst case scenario is that I just run out of fuel in these tanks. I honestly don't expect to. Alright. That's what we call an over-tuned space landing, I guess, right? So if we just go a little bit lower here, yeah, we have all kinds of flags just popping up here. Alright, well, we're on the pole regardless, as now our apoapsis is substantially lower. We have our radar altitude not doing anything just yet. Probably be about 5,000 meters for the landing, maybe 6,000. Once again, we're just going to take our time with this, especially because I may have to do a one-engine burn at the very end of this. I'm just going to use the more stable four larger landing legs instead of landing on the LV909. I don't want to have to worry about a tipped-over ship. That'd be a really embarrassing finish to the challenge here, I think. So we're still not doing anything yet. We're not landing on the slopes. We're landing on somewhere pretty flat. So let's go ahead and get our gears out. There we go. Yay! Still nothing. All right, well, we're just going to let this go a little bit closer until we start getting our altimeter to do some work here. So yeah, I was kind of right, as it looks like we are landing on a little bit of a slope. So if we have to abort this landing and go somewhere it's a little flatter, I think we'll be pretty good though. All right, so about 2,000 meters up. That's why I keep checking this altitude. That's the most useful tool in the entire cockpit. Press C to go to IVA mode. It makes it a lot easier. So we're about 1,000 meters up. Notice that I'm flashing SAS on and off right now. Do we have our shadow right here? The sun is right there. And we have some pretty good views. This is actually more of a dirty ice ball area of Minmus, so we're about 1,000. We can use the drop just a little bit. Alright, so here we go. There's our shadow. That's exactly what we want to see. And hopefully we won't have any terrain shadow disappearance glitching like we did on the moon. So 500 meters up, we can start taking this a lot slower, like 10 meters per second. And you'll see how much slower we accelerate here on Minmus compared to other places. And I could have done new science. I could have brought new science materials, but Jebediah just wanted to do the landing challenge. He didn't want to do the science challenge. He planted a flag because he could. Alright, so where are we at? 400, 300 meters? Yeah, we need to slow this down. There we go. Slow it down. Let's keep it pointed straight up. SAS is also pretty important just for keeping steady, but we have a lot of fuel. In fact, so much fuel that we're flying up now, which is not what you want. Alright, so landing legs still good. Just enjoying the nice, tranquil, quiet views. I need to upgrade my skybox again, but that'll come in time. 200 meters. Let's go ahead and slow it down. I think like 3 meters per second is going to be good. Yeah, we're getting nice and close. And you want to burn just enough to keep shedding speed ever so slightly. It's actually, this is the part that I find a little more annoying on Minmus, because one tiny touch of your accelerometer really just makes things go. At least on the moon you kind of have to, you can make slightly more fine adjustments. I don't have something like my scroll mouse wheel linked to the throttle. I don't even know if you can. I don't have a joystick or anything either. So here we go. Minmus landing. We've done this before. We've done this quite a lot in this series, but once again, this is practice for later on. And on Ike, there are a lot of slopes like this. So it's good to go ahead and get this going, especially since this is substantially different. And as we finish up the landing on Minmus, I do want to go ahead and call this a video here. We'll pick up next time where we can see if we have the ship skills to get back from Minmus to Kerbin. We have the fuel, but will anything stop us from completing the Kerbin 3 Ultimate Challenge? This is Asher. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. Feel free to comment or tell me your ship designs for this mission. Thanks again. See you next time.